Okay. Hi,
Okay.
Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm so happy to see you.
Hi, Julie. Of course, I'm so glad to be here. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
inviting me.
Thank you. So I met Melanie teaching ESL a long time ago, more than 20 years ago, and we've just stayed friends over the years, even though she lives in Virginia now. And
Yes,
so
that's
she was
correct.
only in California for a short time, but we taught ESL together, and she's been living in Virginia all this time. So
Yes, and
still
we've stayed in
teaching ESL.
contact over all
Yes,
these
still.
years. I love it.
So she's an ESL teacher too. She taught adults, and well, I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does now and kind of where she came from, and then we'll start asking questions about her Native American heritage.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Melanie Sayas. My maiden name is Corice. And I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And my father was Native American, was raised on a reservation in Tesuque Pueblo, which is located, I'm sure most of you know Santa Fe, New Mexico, right? Everybody knows Santa Fe. So Tesuque Pueblo is about 15 minutes north of Santa Fe. And that's where he was born. He lived on the reservation. He attended Santa Fe High School. And then when he graduated, he joined the Navy Reserves.
Oh my
And he
gosh, that's
graduated when he was
amazing.
only 17 years old.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so my grandma had to write a special letter to the President of the United States to get him permission to actually join the armed services. So,
God, wow, great. And Melanie has two kids, right? And your
yes.
husband is from Puerto Rico
From
originally,
Puerto
right?
Rico, yes. And I have two kids, a 21-year-old daughter and a 17, about to be 18-year-old son.
Wow. Okay, great. And your mom still lives in New Mexico.
Yes, she does. She does. And my mom is not Native American. She was born in a small Spanish town, um, exactly like an hour south of Albuquerque. And so my dad was like an hour north of Albuquerque, and the two came and met in Albuquerque. So, and that's where we were, my brothers and sisters, we were raised there.
Can you tell us how they met? Because your dad was raised on a reservation, right? Was he?
Yes, yes. So, they, after graduating high school, my mom came to Albuquerque and she started working. She was working in downtown Albuquerque, I think for like the Social Security Commission or something like that. And my dad did the same. And so they met and then they got married and had three kids. So
Oh my gosh. Was your dad living on the reservation when they met? Or he had
no, no. So my dad had left the reservation. He did a 2-year tour around with the Navy Reserves.
okay.
So after he got back from that, then he went and settled in Albuquerque. And
Oh,
so he was living there for a while. I think both of them were there maybe a year before they met, and then they got married.
okay. Wow.
So, but they do have similar stories because my mom grew up speaking Spanish in a, Spanish speaking town. But when she went to school, when she became school age, she would get punished for speaking English, for speaking Spanish.
Oh,
So they wanted all the students to speak English only. And if she didn't know how to say something, she would speak Spanish. They had these like rulers and they would hit them on the hands like really hard
oh my God.
if they were not speaking English. And then she would also have to, she would have to kneel down on something and like for a long period of time. So it was very painful.
Like a
So
punishment, like
it was a punishment. They would get punished,
for
yeah,
speaking English.
for not speaking
Well, for
English.
not for speaking their native language was
Yes.
was.
Yeah. So when she was speaking Spanish, she would get punished. And so it was either hitting on the hand or kneeling down for, a long period of time. So that was, that was not a, a good thing for her. She has very bad memories
Oh
of
my
school and especially of
God.
being, young in school like that. And my dad, he spoke Tewa. So growing up in Tesuque Pueblo, there are 6 Native American dialects in New Mexico. And so he spoke Tewa. It's Tewa if you want to look it
Wait,
up. But
wow, okay.
yeah, that's the name of the language. And so when he got to kindergarten, he did not speak good English at all. And so if he could not ask to go to the bathroom in English, he would have to use the bathroom in his pants. So that was just a really, both of them, I mean, coming from two different areas, two different languages, but they had similar experiences as far as, being punished for speaking their native language
Wow.
as
So,
young kids.
oh my gosh. So he lived on a reservation, but he didn't go to school on a reservation. He came out of the reservation to go to school?
I'm not sure where the school was located, but it was just like right outside. It was pretty close. And I don't really know. And unfortunately he passed away 17 years ago.
Oh, he.
So I can't ask him, but I don't know if there was any kind of transportation or any, I'm not sure of that.
Mhm.
So
But it was a school that was speaking English only.
yes,
It wasn't
yes,
like
yes. And
Native
he did
American
attend
teachers.
Santa Fe High School. So I'm not really sure how close the elementary school or what elementary school he went to or where he went to kindergarten, but
Okay.
yeah,
Oh my
but it
gosh.
was definitely an English speaking, like they were taught in English.
And expected to speak in English
Yeah.
also. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, did you learn any of the Indian language from your dad or grandmother?
Okay, so here's the really sad part. So most people my generation, um, because our parents were punished or made to feel dumb if they couldn't speak English, when our parents were raising their kids, they spoke English only. So in our home, we could have been trilingual. We ended up all speaking English only. And because our parents thought they were doing the best they could for us because they didn't want us to suffer like they had to suffer.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
Mm.
So I do know a couple of, phrases here and there. I was also the third child. So, I think more goes to the older ones, like, they knew more about, the happenings and, in the Native American culture, you have a ceremony when you're a bit like a baby and you get an Indian name. And so my sister had an Indian name and my brother had an Indian name, but the third child did not get the Indian name.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I never,
Oh,
but
okay, so you don't have one. Do you remember
yeah.
your sister's Indian name?
I cannot remember how to say it, but it meant basket of flowers.
Oh, wow.
And then my brother's was Tom P, and that meant sunrise.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. So growing up, did you feel, I mean, did you experience a lot of Native American culture, would you say? Or were you more didn't know that much or weren't exposed to that much? Or how was it growing up?
So it was different for me, right? Because I'm not 100% Native American. And so I would spend some time in the summer with my grandma and, riding my bike around the Pueblo and all of that. We were always there for, each reservation has it's called a feast day. And it's a day celebrated aligning with a saint. So it was Saint or San Diego, right? So Saint Diego, and so our feast day in Tasuki was November 12th, and so we were always present for that. And it I think of it now, now that I'm a full-fledged adult and I cook and I do these things, and I'm like, I don't know how these women did it because it was always the women. Um,
Wow.
every home during a feast day, they would open their home to everybody. So they have, usually a table that can seat about 10 people, and people would just come into your home and they would wait in the living room until there was space at the table. So if somebody's, finished eating, they get up, and the women in that household would take their plates and go wash them, and somebody else would come up to the table,
Oh my
and it's like you're
gosh,
serving
amazing.
people
Oh my gosh.
all day long. It's
Wow.
it was it was quite an undertaking. The women would have to prepare months in advance, right? And then you like cut up the meat and you make traditional dishes, which are, New Mexico, there was such a combination between Spanish culture and Native American culture. So they would make things like pozole, and red
Oh,
chili and,
wow.
you
Oh,
know,
wow.
different things that like, you know, people would consider Mexican food. They just have, you know,
On
kind
the
of their version.
reservations. On the,
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
exactly. And then my grandma made all of her bread by hand, and she would, they all have like kivas, like little it's like a little stove. And so once she would make her bread, she would, it's like, you know, in a heated oven. It's like an outdoor oven. There's probably a name for it. But she would make all her bread there, and then they would, you know, slice up the bread and serve that. I mean, the food was amazing. But literally, you just have people coming in, and it's usually people from the Pueblo, but then sometimes you have people like visitors, like you know, like new to the Pueblo or just visiting for that day to see. They have dances going on, and I think Julie, we pulled up that picture where you see that big open space with the dirt, and that's where yes, that one there. And
So
there
this
are
area.
ceremonial dances. One is called the corn dance, and the other big one is the buffalo dance. Buffalo dance is usually around Christmas time or after Christmas,
Wow.
and the corn dance is June 6th.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, and men and women dance. Then you also have people playing the drum and also like singing. And, but the women often dance barefoot.
Oh my God. Did you learn the dances or did you dance or just watching?
Um, Again, I was the third child. So no, I didn't, but my sister did. My
Oh,
brother never did, but my sister did
okay.
participate in the dance. We have some pictures of her
So
as a little girl.
this is what the reservation kind of looked like. This was the center, and you said there were houses outside of this also.
Yes. Yeah,
But
there's also
but
some houses around. It was a small pueblo, but
but
yeah,
each one of these is somebody's
home.
house. Okay. So they live
Um,
so close together.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's like outside of this is like the central area.
Okay.
There's some other houses, like standalone houses and lots more space in between.
Okay. So separate houses outside.
Yeah.
And that's where your grandma lived.
Yes.
Okay. Did your grandma speak English too?
My grandma spoke very good English. Yeah. So she was I believe she was a cleaning lady for some people in Santa Fe, and she yeah, she ended up speaking really good English, and she drove, and I'm telling you, she drove till she was probably 85,
Wow.
maybe even older. Maybe she was almost 90. I don't
And she
know.
lived at this reservation her whole life.
Yes.
And then she would just leave to work and come back to the reservation. She'd go to different cities and come back and work.
Yeah,
Go to
she
work
would
and
just
come
go to
back.
Santa Fe. That's where
Yeah.
she would go. She would just go to Santa Fe, and she would drive all around Santa Fe. She knew exactly how to get there, how to get to certain places, and
Oh,
she had a way to drive where she was never in a lot of traffic. She would take
oh,
these back roads and things like that when she got
wow.
older. But
No traffic.
yeah.
Wow. Is that what a lot of people on the reservation did? Leave to go to a bigger city to find work and then come back and
Yeah, like current day, it just depends, but most people are going to work in Santa Fe. And then I know some residents, even current day, there's a national laboratory in Los Alamos. And that is probably I want to say 20-30 minute drive from
okay.
the Pueblo.
And so people are still living at this pueblo. This is their home. They're 20, all the time. This is their main home, and then they go out to work. Do they leave for grocery shopping or other shopping
Yeah,
also?
grocery shopping, everything is going to happen in Santa Fe.
Okay. So they often will leave the reservation every day, probably. Most of them leave and then they come back later.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. And then my grandmother, before she passed away, she was the oldest living female in the Pueblo, and she passed away in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2012, and she was 99.
Oh my
She was
God.
99 years old.
Did everyone just take care of her? And do you remember how?
Yes, everybody loved her. Everybody knew her. Of course, she was like the matriarch, right, of the Pueblo. Um, but it's funny because even though she was the oldest, she was driving, the if she was in her 90s, she was driving the 80-year-olds around to Santa Fe and things like that.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, she was driving them around. And did she stay here her whole life, or did she have to go out to get other kind of care as she got older, or she just stayed here
Um,
in the reservation?
yeah, so the last like 3 weeks of her life, she had a fall, unfortunately. So she was in a like a skilled nursing facility
Okay,
for the
outside of
last two
the.
weeks, and that was in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
before she
Okay.
passed.
So Melanie, at the reservation, did they have, you said that the kids left to go to school, but did they have a hospital? Did they have like police people there, police type
So
of
they do
government
have
or?
a like a sheriff and like
Okay.
a police for the pueblo itself, but not a hospital. Not, I mean, that is all stuff they would have to go to like a bigger city for, like Santa Fe, or even like maybe Pojoaque, which is like a
Wow.
north, farther north.
Okay. And in everyday life, the people living on the reservation, did they speak English to each other? Or do you know nowadays, do they still speak their native language, or is it mostly English on the reservation?
I think a lot of people spoke English, well, especially around me because I didn't speak Tewa, but definitely Tewa was used, when they didn't want me to understand what they were
Okay.
saying. So,
Okay.
yeah, there was,
Okay.
but very much bilingual, and I think the majority now, especially, speak English for sure.
Okay. Okay. Speak English. Let me go back to another picture that you mentioned. The church that you said was there, but then it got burned down, unfortunately. But this was a Catholic church in the
Tesuki.
Tesuque Pueblo. And that's where
Hmm.
you remember your grandma went to church?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So that looks like the original church. And
Okay.
then if you scroll down, I think that one with the blue sky underneath. Can you see the
Right.
image? No,
Oh,
no, like on this other
oh,
far
this
right.
one. This one?
That doesn't, is that, maybe that is, no, that's the old church.
That's the old.
Yeah, so there's a much newer church now.
Okay.
But Julie, if you look to the right, or yeah, see where you have that image there, and then right directly underneath it, there's like a
Oh,
blue. You see the blue sky? Yeah,
oh
that
yeah.
one.
How
Nope.
do I do
No.
that? Let me see here. This one?
There you go.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Oh no, that's what the old church looked like,
That's
and
the
that's
old
what
one.
some of the dances look like. That's the
Wow.
deer dance. Okay.
Amazing. In front of the church. So
Mhm.
are most of the people on the reservation then Catholic, would you say? Or
Yes,
oh, okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And then where you see that church,
Hmm.
do you remember the other image that you saw where there was all the flat land, the flat dirt?
Yes. Yes.
So the church was just on the other side of that. So
That's
whenever the dances were happening, that's all there. Yeah. So the image that you're looking at in that picture, the church is on the other side.
okay. Wow. And then would you say that these are let me see, I saw a picture. Would this be some of the homes here? This was like somebody's
Hmm.
house on the reservation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And Melanie, do you know if did they pay for rent or how did I know the land we know a little bit about how the land was taken and then reservations were built and then Native Americans went to live on those reservations, right? And but how did they were they charged rent or did they own each one and then they would sell it if they wanted, or does it like how we live in our houses?
It's very different, and I'm not an expert on this, but you can actually own a house on a reservation, which we still own my grandmother's house.
Oh my God.
But it's really different because on a reservation, it's a sovereign land. So it's a sovereign nation, right? So it just the laws that we have regarding real estate just don't necessarily apply. So even though you own the house, it's you still the pueblo is still very much in control of it, if
Okay.
that makes
The
sense.
Pueblo is in control. And do people like pay rent there or do you know? Or
If you're renting out somebody who owns a house, and I,
okay.
I just don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah, that's
unfortunately,
okay.
like the, how. buying a house and all of that. I don't know how that works. So yeah, I'm not the person to
Mhm.
ask for that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Do you have any memories of inside her house? How was it? Was it different than the house that you lived in Albuquerque, or was it when you were a kid? Did you think it was kind of what did you think when you were a kid when you were visiting your grandma and all of that?
Yeah, so it was small. It was kind of a smaller house, but pretty similar as far as, hallway, bedrooms,
Okay.
a kitchen. But one thing, they always have like a separate room. It's almost like what you would call a butler's pantry today, but it was like this separate room, but that was always to prepare for the feast days. So that's where they did like the preparation. That's where they had the extra
Oh my
storage.
God,
I mean, imagine if you're feeding upwards of 100 people a day or coming to have dinner at your house. I mean, I just remember these huge bowls and huge pans, pots and pans that my grandmother had that they would just like make, you know, prepare the
Wow.
pozole, prepare the,
Oh my
the soups, the, whatever it was. Like, and she made this like macaroni dish. And it was just different. I've never had anything like it.
God.
It was like macaroni with canned tomatoes, like chopped up tomatoes, and then cubes of cheddar cheese.
Oh
And
wow.
that was like her specialty. And,
Wow. Oh my God.
yeah, so there was always like a big room though. Every house had it,
Wow, that's
and it was
amazing.
just that's where you housed all of the things. Um, yeah, and I remember she had a wood stove to keep her house warm, in the winter.
Okay. Was it hot in
But
the summer then?
it was hot, no air conditioning.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it was, cool enough if you opened windows. So
Was her husband also Tewa? Or is that how you would say the name of the
you
people?
just from Tisuki.
Oh, from
Yeah,
Tasuki. Was her
yeah,
husband your grandfather from Tasuki?
yes,
Oh wow. Oh my
yeah. And
gosh.
he had passed away several years. He passed away when I was younger.
Okay. They were both there. And then how about your dad? I remember you talking about your dad and how he was a chief of the Pueblo. Is that right?
Yes. So this is this was very interesting because in in the culture, there's two sides. There's a summer clan and a winter clan. Okay. And so it's kind of, I don't want to say like Democrats and Republicans, but it kind of was um, because you had these two different clans, right? And so you were just born into the clan, if that makes sense. So it's
Okay.
not like, oh, I want to be a winter clan. No, you were just, we were a winter clan. And so what would happen every January 1st, they would appoint their leaders. So they would appoint a governor, a lieutenant governor, all the people who were on the council, and they would appoint the sheriff, and I can't remember what else, but there were all these different positions.
Leaders. Okay.
Yeah, the different leaders, and they appointed them every January 1st. So what would happen was that it would be the summer clan. So the summer clan would appoint
Oh,
the people from the summer clan to those positions. Then the following year, it would be the winter clan. So they would just kind of take turns, right? They would alternate. And my dad, two of his uncles, they were like the elders. And so when every time they would try to appoint my dad to a position, his uncles would say, no, not him. He lives in Albuquerque. He has a family. You can't appoint him. And so they kept him free from any kind of leadership positions, right? So
were
of
your
course,
uncles living on the reservation? Your
my
uncle
uncles
stayed.
did at the
They
time.
stayed
Yes.
there. Wow.
Yes. And when they passed away, they weren't my uncles, they were my father's uncles,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
Okay.
my grandmother's brothers. So, and my dad was an only child.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they kept him, he was safe. He never had to hold office because when you are appointed, you have to live on the reservation for that year.
Oh my God.
So
Wow.
They every time, nope, nope, not him, right? So then when, the last of the uncles passed away, that following year, immediately, my dad was appointed to lieutenant governor. So
So he
that
had
was
to
it.
move back to the reservation.
He had to move back to the
He
reservation.
lived
That was
with
it.
his mom in the same house.
He did live with my mom, with his
With
mom.
his,
Yeah,
oh
my grandma. Yeah,
my God.
yeah. So, and he still had his house in Albuquerque, and all of the kids were grown. We were all out of the house.
Oh
That
my
was in
God.
1999.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he was lieutenant governor, and then he so it's interesting because my dad was an accountant. He worked for the BIA. It was the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
So he
And
went to college. Yeah.
what's that?
He went to college and
Well,
everything.
yeah, my dad, after he left the military, he got married, raised a family. I was probably very little because that was the youngest, but he went to school, and it took him 12 years because he was working, had a family, but he got his bachelor's degree, and then he ended up with a master's degree as well.
Wow.
So he was an accountant and worked for the BIA. So BIA is part of the federal government. And but when he got appointed, they understand these things, right? Because they know how this works. So he had like a leave of absence for a year from his job so
Did he
he could
get
be lieutenant governor.
did he get
And
paid to be lieutenant governor at the reservation?
you know what? I don't
I
even
don't
know
know.
that. I really can't answer that question. I would imagine, but I don't know.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
just a couple more questions, Melanie. If you go back and visit, because you live in Virginia now, if you go to New
Yes.
Mexico to visit your mom, do you go to the reservation to see the house?
I do on occasion. The last time we went, I went to go see my grandmother's her her grave which is on the
On the
reservation.
reservation.
My dad is buried at the National Cemetery
Oh,
in Santa Fe.
okay.
So yeah, so I went to visit him, and then we went to go see my grandmother's grave, which is actually on the Pueblo as well. So
Can people, students often ask, can I go on a reservation? Can people just go driving in the reservation if you're not Native American and don't belong to that tribe?
it depends. It
Okay.
depends. So there's certain times, like when you drive up, you'll see a sign that says the Pueblo is not open.
Okay.
And then there's certain times, like when there's the feast day or like whatever, then people are, allowed to come in.
Allowed to
Yeah,
come
but they
in.
say like no photography and stuff like that. Like you're not supposed
Okay.
to photograph, I don't think, dances and things of that sort.
Okay.
So
Wow. So a few times it's open. But if you know someone like you had a friend, did you ever take a friend to visit your grandma?
yeah. Yeah, or people would come and I'm like, oh, okay, tell them you know me or whatever if I didn't happen to be there or whatever. So
Because
yeah.
they all know each other in the Pueblo.
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
it's different for us now because, you know, first my dad passed away 17 years ago, and that was hard. And then we still had my grandma, so that was like our tie. And then now it's like we have like distant cousins and things like
Um,
that, but it's a little tricky.
Does anyone live in the house now?
Yes, it is being rented out now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And then last question, do you have any special memories of being on the reservation or with your grandma or just being Native American or something connected to your Native American heritage, some kind of special memory or
Yeah,
something?
I just remember the summers, going there in the summer, and then always like for me, I never wanted to go around Christmas time. I'm like, oh, we have to go again, but now I see it and I'm like, oh wow, that was really kind of a special time. Um, and what I love is like seeing my dad because he was a businessman. My dad, like he was an accountant, he would, put on his suit and his tie and go to work. But then, sometimes on the weekends he would go back and he would like have like the ceremonial, like they'd paint their hands, like their hands and their arms white, like with chalk. And, he would do all the things and just, it was like, wow, he's part of two worlds, like this, like being so native and these customs and rituals and traditions that are hundreds of years old. And to see him like that, doing that, and then being the businessman, like the next day.
Wow.
So that
What
to me is, always kind
amazing.
of special. And,
Oh,
and then just, he was lieutenant governor 2 years, so it was in '99, and then again in 2004, and
wow.
just all
Wow.
of those. Like he had like a big job, he had a very important role,
Oh my gosh.
and so that was
And he
always.
was he happy he did it in the end, do you think, after he
Yeah, I know he was. And, really what my uncles were trying to do is protect him from having to leave his family, because he had a job and a family and everything. And so they were just trying to protect him. And so, it just worked out that when they passed, he was older and he was on his own and he didn't have children to worry about. And so it just kind of
worked
it worked
out?
out. And it was a good opportunity for him.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And I love the way you said he was part of two worlds. I
Yeah.
think that's such a nice way to end this because like our students, like our ESL students who have their two worlds
Yes.
and staying
Yes.
connected to their heritage and their language and their culture
And
and then
that's hard to
coming
do
into our
sometimes
community.
because you want to say, oh, I need to speak English. I need to work on my English. I want to integrate. But it's like, where we come from is so valuable and so important. And, you don't ever want to lose that, and you see it especially with like little kids, and I always tell like the parents of these kids, like, keep your language strong, keep your language, keep it, that's so important. And, the values and all of that. So, yeah. And I know it's not easy. It's not easy being part of two worlds.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Melanie. We really appreciate your sharing your culture with us and your memories and your history. And we're so grateful to be able to talk to you and to have this interview. And I'm sure it's going to be really interesting and wonderful for my students to see. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to talk about this, and thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
for for the interest.
Thank you.